kind of power that allows us to launch a punch and pull it back like a boomerang. Wasat Yahallah, Igata Hrafnar. With you all health, I am Hrafnar, or Raven, whichever you prefer. I apologize for how the previous previous installment on this series was cut off at the end, but I'm picking up from where we left off. So I was explaining how the myth of Thor being able to throw his hammer like a boomerang is actually a reference to martial arts technique. So to refresh you, basically it's referring to the fact that one huge difference between a trained punch and an untrained punch is if you have an untrained punch and you throw your fist out, you have a very high likelihood of throwing yourself off balance. And if you're throwing yourself off balance or off center, then it's a lot harder for you to pull yourself back in order to, reload. But if you have a trained punch where the power is coming from the core, where your forge is, so to speak, then you're able to send out a punch and pull it back like a boomerang. And so this explains the meaning of how Thor can throw his hammer like a boomerang. So, I'm going to briefly reiterate the content of the video before this one. Again, I do apologize for the fact that it got cut off like that, but I'll work on that. So, basically, in the mythology surrounding Thor, the story about how his hammer is created is a metaphor for the technique by which we can summon the hammer ourselves. The fact that he has to wear Meganjord and Jarngreipur to wield the hammer is simply a metaphor for that he's using power belt in order to reduce the amount of strain put upon his internal organs when he does heavy lifting, such as when he's lifting the hammer, so as to allow him to access greater levels of his strength. And that's core strength that's referring to. The Jarngreipur gauntlets are a metaphor for how he manages to clench his fists as a way of retaining control over his power, over the emotion and the power that he taps into and channels to summon or to wield the hammer, in order to compensate for the fact that his temper is shortened by distraction, which is symbolized by how while the dwarves were making the hammer, Loki went and distracted the dwarves, causing them to make the handle, symbolizing the temper, too short for him to wield it without clenching his fists or, wearing iron gauntlets, basically. It's metaphors. It's all metaphors for technique. And what we learn from this myth is the value of not being distracted. In other words, this myth was passed on to us so that we could learn from Thor's example. And that means that if we do not allow Loki to distract us while we are doing the breathing technique to create the hammer, then we will not need Jarngreipur, and possibly we might not even need Meganjord. But I think Meganjord, by the way, just to refresh you, is the name of the belt of power that Thor has to wear in order to be able to lift the hammer. But I think that I'll actually do a separate video dedicated to just Meganjord and Jarngreipur, the Iron Gauntlets. So this is just a quick follow-up and completion of that previous episode. I hope that this has been informative, and I am very grateful that you guys are watching my stuff. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment those questions down below, and I can address them in future videos. The next video that I will do in this series regarding this martial arts style, this Germanic martial arts style that I believe is encoded in Germanic mythology, the next video will be about Sigríður, the Dragon Slayer. Thank you very much. Wasatya Halla, with you all health, grow strong and think deep. I love you.